Hello, class 12s. So we've come to the end of this chapter. Okay, so in this video, we will be ending the chapter, right? We have two subtopics left. So let's start. Struggle for women's equality and rights. So as you know, the in the Indian society, the status of men and women are at different levels. Okay, I hope you have seen that and also experienced it in many cases. Gender inequality is a very sensitive issue which has gained much popularity in the modern era. So gender inequality is very much prevalent. It's very much happening in the Indian society and elsewhere. Gender inequality is a social phenomena. That means it's not something which is biological. Inequality or gender inequality is not something you are born with, but it is how the society perceives that the girls should be inside the house, they belong to the kitchen, and all of that. It is a social perspective. Hence gender inequality is considered to be a social phenomena. That is why there are a lot of social campaigns against inequality of women, and there are a lot of laws and there are a lot of movements that has taken place in the history and is still taking place for the upliftment of women rights. There is nothing biological regarding the unequal treatment of women. As I mentioned, that you are not when you are born as a man, as a boy or as a girl, uh, you're not born with any inequality, but as you grow up, the social contexts, as you grow up, that renders whether you are like that renders you unequal. So because like there are some societies in Kerala and even in the northeast which is purely matrilineal. I hope you all have studied matrilineal earlier. Matrilineal is where the women has more authority. They have, I mean, like, they are the head of the family and all of the authority is placed in the hands of the women. So there are societies like this. Hence they are trying to say that it is not biological but it is a social phenomena. Like caste or class, gender inequality and exclusion is a social phenomena. How people were excluded and dominated on the basis of their caste and class. Similarly, gender inequality is also like that of caste or class. It is a social phenomena. The reform for women began as a part of the 19th century middle class social reform movement. So when India was being ruled by the British, that time a large number of middle class people started to pursue and study Western education. Hence, they understood many ideas regarding democracy, right to right to speak and all of that. Hence they began to begin movements, okay, to fight the social evils. And one of the issue they fought for was women's rights, or for the equality of women. The reforms were organized by the Western educated middle class, as I've mentioned, who were influenced by the Western ideas and the democratic traditions. Democratic tradition means everybody deserves to be free, everybody deserves to be equal. So, for some examples, you have to remember this: anti-sati campaign led by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, widow remarriage movement where Rana De was one of the leaders, Jyotiba Phule's attack on caste and gender oppressions, and reform movement in Islam led by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. So please remember these reform movements, such campaigns taken up by the middle class Western educated citizens of our country in the 19th century. Ram Mohan undertook the campaign against sati, which was the first women's issue to receive public attention. I am assuming that you all know what the sati system is. So, since it has been abolished, it is because of the efforts of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Jyotiba Phule belonged to a socially excluded caste, and he attacked both caste and gender discrimination. So, Jyotiba Phule he organized reform movements against both caste and gender inequality and discrimination. So Jyotiba Phule founded the Satya Shodhak Samaj, emphasizing on truth seeking. Please remember such points. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, that was in Islam, he tried to reform the Muslim society. So he wanted girls to be educated, okay? But then there were certain criteria that he wanted them to have a curriculum that includes the studying of religious practices, training in housekeeping, handicrafts, and rearing of children. So there was no science, there was no politics, no history, nothing. But he wanted them to study this very womanly things, okay? So I feel like this person, Syed Ahmed Khan, was kind of patriarchal, but maybe he wanted the girls to learn things which they require, the basic activities of life. In 1931, the Karachi session issued a declaration committing itself to women's equality. So there was this Karachi session in the year 1931, which dedicated itself to working for the equality of women. So please read their declarations. I have mentioned the page number. So again, that was during the 19th century, and in the later half of the 19th century, that is in the 1970s, women's issues re-emerged. So the issues concerning women, their rights, it began to come up again. So but it was different than the earlier one. The emphasis in the 1970s was on the rape of women in police custody, representation of women in media, gendered consequences of unequal development. So the issue, it had a gradual shift in the later part of the 19th century. Okay, so we move on to the last subtopic, that is the struggles of the disabled. So who are the disabled? So these are the person who has some kind of physical, you know, physical backwardness or physical problem, or these people who are not mentally fit. These people are disabled. So disability is biological. Yeah, you are born with it. But like sometimes there are accidents, and then that is not biological. That is a phenomena which is caused due to accident. So there and then although these people are biologically disabled, but their situation worsens when the society mistreats them, when the society looks down upon them. So disability is also one of the phenomena where, because of which people are treated unequally, and they are dominated, like that of caste, class, tribes, gender. When a disabled person faces problem, it is taken for granted that the problem arises from their impairment. So when a person who is disabled in some way faces a particular problem, so people assume that it is because of their, you know, physical or mental state. And the disabled is seen as a victim. They are seen as a victim of their biological state. In India, words such as disabled, handicapped, crippled, blind, and deaf are used and called upon as insults. So they are insulted by the society, and such words are used to call them, you know, and that is taken as an insult, because you would not want to call a blind person, you will not call a blind person blind. I mean, like in front of them, or like you won't tell them in a very sarcastic and in a very hurtful manner, right? But people do that. So that is why the condition of the disabled, it worsens because of the perspective and the way people address them, it insults them. Any deviation from a perfect body signifies abnormality, defect, and distortion. So in this 21st century, having a perfect body, it is like so important that people, any deviation, a small difference from a perfect body is seen as a default, as a defect. Destiny is seen as the culprit, and the disabled are seen as the victim. You get this? The common perception views disability as karma. So they believe that they are disabled in the current birth because they did some, like, no pap, or they did bad things in their earlier life. The disabled are rendered disabled not only because they are biologically disabled, but because the society renders them so. They are disabled, okay, fine, they are biologically disabled, but we as individuals who aren't disabled, we should give our best in making them feel better about themselves. Instead, there are people in the society who views them negatively and tries to stay away from them or keeps them, keeps a distance from them. So it hurts these people, and it is a kind of insult towards them. So what is mentioned here is there is a close association between disability and poverty. So why is that so? Why is there a association between disability and poverty? So malnutrition, frequent childbirth, inadequate immunization contributes to among the poor people more contributes to immunization, contributes to more disabled birth among the poor people more. So if you are poor, you are malnourished, you don't get proper food when the child is in your womb, and if you give birth to like several number of children, that usually happens among the poor people. They have a lot of children, they give birth, or they want more children so that they can support the family by working. Okay, so because of such things, because of not being immunized frequently in correct time and being malnourished, the baby which will be born in these families may be disabled. So there are more disabled children born in the poor family than in the richer ones. In turn, disability results in isolation and economic strain. That's because, like I told you, people try to maintain a distance from disabled people. They would not like to make friends with them, or they would not want to like be in be associated to them. And they are not, and at times they are not even accepted in jobs, even though they may be like academically forward, but then because of the disability they may not get the job. So it brings economic strain, but we should not do that. We should treat them equally because they are equal. So read box 5.8, approaches adopted for the disabled in 2001 census. Please read this, and if you have any problem, please let me know. So we've studied inequality in case of the disabled, the gender discrimination among the Adivasis, caste, class, gender. Okay, so all of these social groups are in one way or the other a victim of inequality, discrimination, exclusion in our society. So I'll be giving you all questions, and I want you all to solve the questions that is given in your textbook. Thank you.